Wow, I talked about, I feel like, everything I wanted to talk about in the Nintendo Direct on stream. I really got to get out of that habit. Like, every time I have something to talk about, let's go ahead, make a pre recorded video, and then re upload it. Then upload it before I went live. Because there's a lot to unpack with the Nintendo Direct situation, right? A lot of good shit shown here. Love Pyra, love Triangle Strategy, love Skyward Sword HD. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but I do think the thing that's caught my attention about it, the thing that caught my attention in general regarding this direct is the reception of it. Specifically, not the reception of the direct itself, but the weird dissonance between the general audiences, right? Like people just watching the video and hardcore. When I say hardcore neo gaffers, v Reddit, hardcore hardcore individuals who obsess over everything Nintendo does. Among general audiences, this direct was seen very positively. It got over 1 million views. Like there was over 1 million people watching that thing live. The Smash announcement went over well. The release dates for new things went over well. No More Heroes 3 was shown off. Like there was a lot of stuff to look forward to. But the hardcore gamers were constantly looking for excuses to bitch. I really need to stop saying hardcore gamers because I'm so much more hardcore than these people. I play more games than them. I know more about gaming than them. I have a more complete Nintendo collection than them. It's kind of remarkable how often these people will look for an excuse to bitch. You know what I mean? Like trying to say, there were a lot of examples of this that direct, but I think the takeaway here, when all is said and done, is that the hardcore crowd aren't interested in games. They aren't interested in what Nintendo was releasing, or they aren't interested in release dates, or new IPs, or re-releases of old shit. Like what they want is hype. Like what they want is to feel excitement. What they want is for Nintendo to give some meaning to their miserable empty lives by announcing a new AAA IP. Like that's that's basically it. The amount of people who were bitching about like Prime 4 and Bayonetta 3 during this direct was just completely ridiculous to me. Like, who gives a shit? Like, oh, do you really have nothing else to look forward to? Do you really have nothing else to play? Do you really have nothing else going on in your life that you're willing to bitch about something that you really don't have the slightest clue about? Like, we just got it. A new Metroid game in 2017, right? Samus Returns was fantastic. You spent that game bitching about that too, and trying to say that a terrible fan remake was somehow superior. You see this constantly with these people. Like, oh, I'll just emulate Skyward Sword HD. Wait, why is Skyward Sword HD $60 instead of $5? Everything's overpriced. Why are they re-releasing old shit? Where where are the new games? Like, just over and over and over again. Nonstop bitching and complaints about basically nothing. Like, oh man, we're gonna have to wait until 2022 for Splatoon 3. We've never had to wait for a major new video game before. Like, the weird double standard when it comes to Nintendo and other companies is ridiculous. The censorship thing, right? Like, I've talked about this before, but this is another blatant example of this, where Sony has reached the point where they're basically actively censoring every game that comes out on their platform. It's a known thing they do. They do it all the time, and yet there's this weird conspiracy that continues to this day that Nintendo is somehow worse. I remember going to... I actually just went to the censored gaming page to see if anyone was commenting on the Pyra outfit change yet, and I was scrolling through some comment section, and the very top comment, like the highest rated one, was like, when you're censoring more than Nintendo, you know you have a problem. Like, it's... When has Nintendo actively censored anything? Like, it's such a weird myth from the 90s, like that somehow stayed very much alive today. It's because these people can't let go of their training. They can't let go of their programming. Like they absolutely need, they feel a compulsion to shit on Nintendo no matter what. Even in this era where Switch is dominating PS5 and Series X in sales, when they spent an entire 50-minute span doing nothing but talking about upcoming games in the very near future. Like, No More Heroes 3 in August. We get new Pokemon Snap in April, right? Persona 5 Strikers is coming out soon. What's coming out in March? Something. Is that one Road Factory 5? I don't remember. There's something coming out in March. Like Famicom Detective Club in May, like Splatoon 3 in the future, Breath of the Wild. Like, we know these things are coming out, and yet somehow, inexplicably, it's never enough for these people. Like, these people will always find some reason to bitch, and it's really not because of Nintendo. Like, it's not because of the third parties, like, declining in quality. It's not because of, like, the way the directs are structured or handled. It's not because of the announcements themselves, the games, the audiences they're targeting, their the frequency of the directs. It's because fans refuse to have any kind of standard at all. Like, that's kind of it. It's kind of interesting to me how the same people who are bitching about Splatoon 3 coming out in 2022 are also the ones who were hyping Cyberpunk 2077 for 8 fucking years. You spent 8 years of your life waiting for something that turned out to not even be a... that turned out to be a complete failure. Like, a complete just disaster that nobody even talks about anymore. Like, the double standard is way out of control. Nintendo to these people is always the bad guy. Like, you always have to see Nintendo as like the enemy of gaming, when in reality they're the savior of it. They're really the only company that's even worth watching. You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck is looking forward to like announcement streams from any other company? You know what I mean? Like, the more I think about the Direct, the more I think about the things they showed. Yeah, there were things I wish they showed, but at the same time, that doesn't detract from the fact that I still actively am really excited about the future of Nintendo. The upcoming releases that we know are coming, that I am going to get and play and enjoy. Like, I don't understand where this mindset that Nintendo's not good enough is coming from, like, in this current age. Like, it feels like a relic from the 90s. It really, truly does. Like, anyone who calls this a bad Direct, anyone who calls it terrible, anyone who calls it disappointing, like, anyone who says Nintendo is out of touch, is completely delusional. There's no way around it. Like, this Direct was phenomenal, and I cannot wait to see what Nintendo delivers next.